Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Voice of Adoptees, which brings together diverse and unique voices from around the world to share their stories. If you like today's episode, remember to give us a like, subscribe, and leave a review. Here's your host, David Shunk.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode here on Voice of Adoptees podcast. I'm joined by Alexandra from Pennsylvania. She recently returned from Ukraine, so we're going to have a very exciting episode for you today. Alexandra, welcome. We ended up having to redo this episode actually because of technical problems across the world in Ukraine, and we are happy that you are willing to give it another shot. So we're glad that you're here, and we want to know all about you. So why don't you tell us about yourself?
Well, thank you. Yes, we had a lot of troubles. It was also 3 a.m. There was a time zone difference, and it's a lot better in America. Let me just say that.
Are you more awake this time?
Yes, I am. It's only 8 o'clock, so I'm okay.
Perfect. Yeah.
Not until like 9, so we're okay.
Awesome. All right, great. Well, let's just dive right in. So why don't you kind of tell us, what age you were adopted at, and we'll go from there.
All right. So I was born in 1997. And I was with my birth mother for 3.5 months, and then she gave up her parental rights, and I was put into a baby home, is what they call it. I was born in Moscow, Russia, and I was not adopted. The orphanage had said to everybody that this child does not sit still. She climbs on everything, and we can't get any Russian parents to adopt her. Which kind of makes me laugh.
Geez, didn't know that was a disqualification, I guess.
I guess I just didn't want to deal with it. And I was in the orphanage for 2.5 years, and my adoptive parents, they could not have children, and they had decided to adopt. They were supposed to get another girl. In Russia, I guess this is normal, but the mothers can actually suggest what age they want their children to be adopted. So the girl that they were looking at, the mother didn't want her to be adopted until like 3.5. And supposedly my mother was 2.5, that's okay. Just in case, I guess, if they want to adopt them again. I don't know how it all works. Or basically take them back. I don't know how it works. But then that didn't go through. They didn't want to wait, so then they adopted me. So I had come to the United States in 1999, and I've been here ever since.
Okay. All right. Right before 2000. All right.
Yeah.
So it's safe to assume you probably don't have many memories of Russia, am I correct? Or do you have a little bit?
I've looked, they used to send out, I'm back in the day when they still had VHSs, so they would send all the adoptee, kids, soon to be parents, they would send them VHSs and of the orphanage, and oh, look, your kid's breathing, your kid's fine, So it was basically like that. I'll watch that, and I don't know if I have flashbacks, or maybe it's just me looking at photos and thinking I remember, but I do remember people talking in Russian to me, and I understood it, but then it kind of fizzled out.
Yeah. Yeah, that's understandable. It was a long time ago.
Yes.
But yeah, okay. So as you kind of figure out, what it's like being adopted as you go throughout your life so far, did you face any challenges internally at all?
Yes. I was very close to my adoptive dad. He wanted children very much. He would have adopted the whole country of Russia, probably added China into it. I mean, he would have adopted anybody.
Why not?
I know, why not? And my adoptive mother, who I called Marilyn, so yeah, John and Marilyn, but I don't refer to her as, I don't call her mom. We had a very strenuous relationship. I always knew I was adopted. That was the thing. I always knew it. I didn't look like anybody. Everybody had brown hair. I just didn't look like a mascally, look like a gay bird, I didn't look like that. And I had a very strenuous relationship with Marilyn. She was not come to me, give me kisses, let me hold you. She was not that type of mother. And I really feel that the impact of not having that one-on-one bond with my mother, my birth mother, and then also with Marilyn, that caused a lot of strenuous. And I mean, that mainly buildup of anger, just built up during the years. But, my
Yeah.
dad, there was no need to worry about anything. Like I didn't feel, I had to seek men or, do that type of thing. But, in that sense.
That's one way to put it. Jeez.
Well, no, you know what I mean. Like,
No, I know what you mean. Yeah, no, just the way you just worded it, it was pretty funny. Not gonna lie, that was pretty
I'm
good.
very blunt. No.
Yeah, well, most Russians are, so I don't think they'd expect anything less. So
Yeah, we tell the truth.
that's true.
No, but you know what I mean. Like that closure,
Yeah,
both of them have passed on, my adoptive parents, and that put like a big strain on me as well. My dad first went, and then my grandmother, who I was very, very close to, and then my step grandfather, he had died in 21, and then Marilyn had died in 22. And because of the relationship with Marilyn and I, we didn't really like each other. We love hate, I liked her, we loved it, that type of relationship. But her death did hit me hard, and I had to deal with that. So all the anger and the pain of being abandoned once and feeling like an orphan once, it just like came back.
yeah. Wow, that's definitely, yeah. That's not easy. I mean, I couldn't imagine. You made the comment about feeling like you were already abandoned once, when you were born in Russia, and then you kind of had to go through that entire experience again. Like when you're more, aware and you're able to actually rationalize and remember it more, crystal clear in your head. I mean, it must be, you know, that must have been really hard for you. So I'm glad that you're still here and still pushing ahead. So that's good. So when did you start to ask questions about your adoption? Do you remember when you were growing up when you kind of got curious, or how did that kind of start?
My parents were Russian Orthodox, so I always had like the Russian heritage, the Russian like in my face all the time. I don't really remember a time like when I had said, I think there was bits and pieces. Like they would talk a little bit about Russia, and they would talk about like the taxi driver. His name was Sasha, which
Yep.
is like my name in a form of a nickname, Sashka in Russian.
Right. Yeah.
And they would tell me, oh, there would be ice cream on the stands in Moscow, and it would be like lard because it would never melt. Or, my grandfather went to Lenin's tomb and he was trying to speak Russian, but there was a whole other new Russian. He almost got arrested because of the guard. I mean, it's just like,
Oh,
I always
jeez.
knew like the stories. I asked one time, I do remember asking Marilyn, what my mother's name. She had said Olga. And I said, oh, okay. It really didn't dawn on me until I had asked her, I think when I was like 15, 16, can I see my adoption papers? And, they didn't hide anything from me. You know, uh, she had given me them, and, I didn't find out her birth date, my birth mother's birth date, until, 2018. And I was like, oh, wow, she was born June 3rd, 1977. That's cool. That was just like one little thing I never knew. But then again, I didn't really care at the time, kind of thing. Learned about her name. I always knew my birth name was Irina. I always knew that. But it didn't really start until about 2019 after I found out her birth date. I was like, let me just see if I could, you know, learn a little more about this woman who had birthed me. And, I'm going through medical records, and I saw the actual parental rights that she wrote to give me up. So that was pretty in her own handwriting. There's more less why in that sense. Back then it was more of just why, like, other people have kids at 16, 17, and they keep their kids. Why did you do this? So then my anger would come back, and I would kind of put it on the back burner for a while, and it's a difficult scenario because you want to know who you are, you have the right to know who you are, but how do you go about doing that?
It almost feels unfair in a lot of ways. You're you're trying to find out this whole side of you that maybe when you were younger didn't quite understand, and now we're older and we're thinking about it, and there's that expression that it's so close yet so far away.
Oh, yeah.
Or something like that. I don't know. Google it.
Yeah.
But yeah, and it's like you're searching, and you feel like you're so close to something, but you still just aren't there yet, or there's still something that you feel is not discovered yet.
It's weird. And I mean, I had the blessing and the privilege. I've actually found my birth mother, and I actually got to meet her and like have that closure with me. But any little detail, and any adoptee will know if you're looking for your birth parents, any little detail, it could be like, oh, this road they've been on Google Maps. I mean, any little small detail is like a step forward to finding basically your heritage almost.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's so much information out there that, you know, you said it perfectly, that any bit of information for someone adopted really can go a long way. I mean, there's a lot of things that people take for granted that being adoptees, we don't take for granted. For example, being able to wake up every day and, see our genetics right in front of our faces every day, and then to experience that for the first time, it's something that, we'll never forget. I mean, I definitely remember the first time I saw a photo of any of my family members over in Russia, that was just like, it was out of this world. The fact that I was able to actually see that, and see like, okay, that's where my smile comes from. It's almost, it was creepy. It was like,
It's
what?
it's mind blowing and
Yeah. Yeah. Seriously.
gives you almost goosebumps in a way.
Yeah, definitely. So now that you just kind of segmented into your family in Russia, why don't we talk about, what age you were when you decided to search, kind of what motivated you behind that, and let's talk about that.
2019 is when I started looking into more and more. I had searched her name, and first place start usually is either Google, VK, OK. That's all you got. I was under the impression that she was still in Russia and she's never been married, and like she's kind of like lived her life, got married, had a few kids. That's like, honestly, that's what I wanted for her. And I had looked on OK.ru, which is like their, Facebook, MySpace type of thing in Russia. And I had
Yeah.
found a profile of an Olga Gonzek saying, birth date. I saw a few photos and I'm like, holy shit. I think this is her. So, you know, I didn't tell a lot of people about it at first because I didn't want anybody. Not a lot of people knew my anger and my pain down there. Like, nobody knew the emotional aspect, but you could probably tell. I express my feelings of wanting a mother a lot. And it's not just, telling people, it's just what I do. Like, I have a lot of paintings in my house of mother and daughter. Like, that's just a way that that I'm in pain almost. But I'm not going to express it, just openly, unless I'm talking to another adoptee and be like, oh, girl, I know what you're talking about.
Oh
you
yeah,
know,
it's like an instant connection. We understand.
yeah. So, I
Yeah.
mean, just little hints there, but going back to finding her. So, I didn't get anything. The profile that I had found in 2019, she wasn't active since 2010. And I was like, you know what? I'm not going to deal with this. So I would check periodically, on Google. My biggest fear was that she was gone, dead. I had hired a private investigator and he looked on, did some things, and he said, an Olga Gonzik matching your description, like the description and also the birth year, she had passed on. And I was like, at that time she would have been 41, like 42. Well, what the hell did she die from? So that was kind of like a big, like, kind of blow, you know, knowing, I don't know anything. Recently, Marilyn died in March of 2022, and that's when my whole world came like crashing down. As much as I disliked her and as much as we fought, but there was still love in it, I told everybody when Marilyn dies, her death is going to hit me the hardest because she's the last immediate family I have. I don't have
Yeah.
any brothers. I don't have, anybody. I have an uncle, but we don't talk. Hi, Uncle Mike, if you're watching this. But, there just isn't anybody here except friends and, close people that I trust. She had died, and the longing and like just the yearning of wanting to know more about my birth mother came about. And, I was searching more and more, and I, went on the OK again. I went on the OK profile, and I'm like, this can't be her only profile. I mean, like, she would have had to, normal people would not, just do this and then just forget about it and never be on social media again. So I was like, you know what, I'm just going to try to
Normal
again.
people.
Well, just, in general. I probably have a few profiles running around,
Oh, jeez.
but
Yeah.
I was just looking around and I had went on BK and I had found another profile, but the name didn't match.
Yeah.
The last name was different. And I'm like, okay, well, she has to be married then. Well, I dive into this and I see 3 other profiles with 3 other different names. And I'm just like,
Hmm.
is she like wanted from the police? Like, what are we looking at? And I had asked a private investigator, what records did you look up? And he said, only in Russia. Only in Russia. And I'm like, oh, okay. So, me being the person I am, I started using Google Translate and I would go through her friends and I must have contacted like 30 people. And I was like, has
Yeah.
anybody
Yeah.
ever heard of a Olga Gonzek? I might be her, birth daughter, or, daughter. And they all looked, some of them were like, she had a daughter. I even got to a point where I accidentally contacted a school teacher of her prime school.
Oh, jeez.
What an embarrassing moment.
Yeah.
Going through the list, my birth name was Irina, and I actually found the woman who I was named after. Her name's Irina. And she had told me some things, and, it was all like confirmed and, different scenarios. So I wasn't just talking to random people.
Yeah.
But I still couldn't find my mother. Nobody had heard from her for over a year, and they had told me she moved to Ukraine. And I'm like, okay, well, why? Just that scenario. My friend, a very close friend of mine on Facebook, had said, there's a Olga Gonzek on Facebook with no picture and nothing, but, there's nothing on it, but just message her just in case. So that was August 1st. And I just messaged it. I did the normal, hey, is this a Olga whatsoever? If it is, can you let me know either way? I still,
Right.
contacted people. I still tried to do, I mean, I was basically Jessica Fletcher. I mean, the FBI couldn't stand in my way. And I,
Probably have a file already, but that's okay.
well, probably. No, give me 30 days and I'll find it.
There you go.
I'm doing all my research. I'm looking at, and I keep finding photos. I keep finding all these profiles. I mean, you would think that she was like running from the police, something.
Yeah. Yeah.
On like 16 days later, I had gotten a message from that profile that my friend had told me, and she had said, yes, this is Olga, and here's my Ukrainian number. And I'm at this rate like, okay, you got to hold yourself together. This may or may not be her. Just hold yourself together. And I had said,
Deep breaths.
I know, like deep breaths, yes.
Yeah.
While I'm like, exhausted. And I had said to her, I was like, is your birthday June 3rd, 1977? And she said, yes. And yours is March 25th. It was an emotional morning.
Yeah.
I almost
Wow.
called off for work. So it was a pretty emotional morning. We, just, I can't even explain like how I was feeling. I mean, everything was just so surreal.
Yeah. No, I mean, I can understand that, and then any adoptee that had that similar experience talking to definitely family member, especially if it's your birth mother. I mean, it is like you said, surreal. It feels like a fairy tale.
I mean, you know them, but you don't know them, and the little bit of Russian I knew, I mean, all I could say was "Privyet Pakdila," which is "Hello, how are you?" I mean, that's not a great, like, introduction.
And that Russian accent was spot on. And no, I'm just
Well,
kidding.
yeah, I could do that. But, you know, it was just so surreal and, like, no we didn't understand each other, like, we didn't know anything. I mean, it was just it was crazy. It was a crazy, wonderful, mind-blowing experience I got to be blessed to deal with.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's amazing. And so from there, how often did you communicate with her? Did you guys stay in touch, or did she tell other family members about you, or how did that work?
It was interesting. I had met her, I had, found her and I was renting out my house at the time. I started a job, everything that could have been happening in my life when this happened did. You know, it was very overwhelming.
Yeah, it's usually the worst time things like this
Oh
happen.
yeah, like the best and everything else.
Absolutely. Yep.
I told everybody. I told my godmother, I told my, best friend, I told my neighbor, anybody that knew about the struggle that I was dealing with, maternal figure, I told that day. Like, I called my friend, I tried to get her on the phone at 6 a.m. and she's like, "Oh, I'm sleeping." And I'm like, "Listen, you need to listen to this." Like, you're gonna drop
I
dead.
don't care.
Yeah,
Either you
like,
pick up the phone or I'm coming over.
yeah, like, you're gonna drop dead when you hear this. Like, are you sitting down? Um,
Yeah.
it was that type of thing. I didn't know much about, like, there's a big language barrier. So,
Newsflash.
yeah, I know. I didn't know that. I thought she would know English.
Oh,
Oh,
absolutely.
yeah, and I would just know Russian button.
100%.
Yeah,
Yep.
and
If only, yeah.
I wish. It would have been probably a hell of a lot easier. And, I just told her a little bit about myself and, she's married and, she has a life and everything, but she never had children. And there's like a backstory to that as well. And it is interesting that she never had any more children after. She tried to have a child in her 30s, but she had a miscarriage. And she had a child before me, and she had a miscarriage. So I was kind of like her only chance of like having a child. So that was interesting. The one thing I wanted for her was to, get married, have more children, and just live her life in that sense.
Yeah. Wow. So you were pretty much like you said, you were the middle child.
Yes, I would have been the middle. She had her miscarriage at 18 and then 30. I do tell people if, and I don't know, this might sound weird, but if Marilyn was still alive, my adoptive mother, or if Olga would have had more children, I probably wouldn't have reached out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's understandable, but I mean, it's hard to really know, I guess, unless, the circumstance was different, but I still think it's amazing that you were able to locate her. And the fact that the person that you had come up with something entirely different and say nothing exists. How did you handle that? Did you ever reach back out to the person and let them know, or did you just not
Yeah,
even bother?
no, I did.
Oh, okay. Okay.
She had my birth mother. I know where I get some of my like ideas from.
Oh
She
boy.
had kind of like run off and went to Ukraine and kind of disappeared. So she didn't confirm it with me, but my guess is that she probably like faked her own death and, like ran off in that sense.
Ah.
I was able to get half of my money back, so that was good.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah, live and learn, I guess.
Yeah.
But wow, okay. So moving forward, so you said that you recently got back from Ukraine. How long were you in Ukraine for?
I was there first time in September. I was like, there's a war going on in Ukraine, and my biggest fear, and even now, I mean, we talk almost every day. We have a interesting relationship. It's all good. Besides, just a little thing. My first thing was like, oh my God, she's gonna die. Um, that was like my first thought. What if I don't go now and then something does happen? Because Russia
Right.
is moving down, and everybody was against it. All my friends were against it. Some people were happy, some people weren't. And I said, when in Rome, and I decided to go, and I don't regret going to Ukraine at all. I had met her, and that was like the craziest experience ever, meeting her. How most parents, talk normally to their kids. I used a Google Translator at the dinner table. It's like, it was interesting.
Yeah. That's good.
The first time
Yeah.
I stayed for 2 weeks. And then, we had talked and just constantly talking and video chatting. And I was picking up Russian. I learned a lot from being in Ukraine the first time, and then just talking to her and then doing my own little, studies of what the Russian language is.
Yeah.
So I had said, I want to come for Christmas. And she was like, okay. And I had went from November up until January 21st.
Wow.
I know that it
That's definitely jumping right in.
it is, because it's like a mixture of coal miner's daughter and like Little House on the Prairie. It is a way of living.
That's an interesting connection. I like that. So why don't you tell us about what you did over there?
As I said, it's just interesting. She lives in like a village, like, European village. Like, I was in Germany and Austria. Like, I've been to other places in Europe. So I kind of got the gist of, what a village was like. But I mean, this is a village. I mean, this is, you know, it's, you have like one store, you have one hardware store, you have one bakery. I mean, this is how it is. The food there, I must have gained at least 50 pounds being there, because all they eat is potatoes and like bread
Yeah.
and kibasi. I mean, it is just like, I'm a salad eater, and a rice eater. Like, I don't eat meat every day of my life like they do. Mostly activities. I mean, we just, talked. There was not a lot to do. She didn't have a car. And if you aren't walking around the village, you're kind of just at home. Well, I have ADHD, so like I had to walk all the time. I had to do things. You would take a bus. Like, there was like a bus in the village that would go into the city center. So you could take that bus into the city center, and there would be shops there. So I had to, let my mind wander in there.
Yeah.
But most of the time it was just spending time together. I learned how to knit. That was interesting. She tried to teach me how to cook, and I failed miserably. Um,
What dish were you trying to make?
I was trying to make them an American style dinner, and I don't cook. Like, I barely know how to boil water. Um, so you can only imagine me cooking. And I was like, spaghetti and meatballs. My friend had suggested it, a very close friend. She's like, why don't you make your mom, spaghetti and meatballs? And I'm like, okay, well, that won't be that hard. I could do that. Well, I bought 2 boxes of like the spaghetti things. And then I had bought sauce, and I had put all the spaghetti, both boxes, in the tiny little pot. I thought that was normal. And then I put it on for 30 minutes, which that, you know, didn't work. And I just kind of like mixed all the sauce. Well, it turned out to be like mush. Um, and my mother didn't eat it, but she told me, umnichka, which is Russian for smart girl. And I'm like, yeah, okay. Um, your daughter doesn't know how to cook, but okay. So that was interesting. But I try to do that. And, she little things that I just didn't know, like the home remedies. Like, I don't know if it's just Russian people or Ukrainian, or maybe it's just European people, but like home remedies, are like the craziest stuff there. Like, you have a sore throat. No, you don't need, vapor rub. Just, take some lemon and sugar and mix it together. There's your, or you're constipated. No, you don't need a laxative. Here's olive oil, like,
Yeah, no,
like
yeah,
that.
seriously.
It is crazy what like the lifestyle is.
Yeah, well, they definitely their view, I think, on a lot of things stems from well, the Soviet times when they didn't have, I guess, a lot of especially when times got hard and they didn't have access maybe to medicine or whatever, and I feel like they had to rely more on, like basic goods around the village type of deal.
Mhm.
Or whatever they could, whatever they could get their hands on. But yeah, but wow, okay. So you were there for extended period of time. You were there by yourself, I assume. You
Oh
didn't
yeah.
travel with anyone? Yeah, just by yourself. Okay. Now, were you close at all to any of the conflict zones, or were you far away from that?
So she's located in Ismail, which is a part of the Odessa region, but it's not like the Odessa where Russia's attacking right now.
Oh, okay.
She's like about 20 minutes from the Romanian border. I did see some airstrikes. There was a lot of army people around. There was checkpoints. It it was more crazy at night. Like you would hear things like there would be like a city bell tower thing, and that would start ringing. It's like airstrike was around. I mean, it was like the craziest shit.
Oh, the air horn.
Yes,
Yeah.
the air horn. More probably the most nerve wracking thing was going through the border. It doesn't look good that I'm an American citizen. Russia being on my passport a place of birth, and then why are you visiting Ukraine? Because in the Russian Federation, you're still considered a citizen there, whether you're adopted out or not. That's why.
So, so you didn't travel, yeah. So because there was Ukraine, you got to travel on it. That was my next question. But you traveled to Ukraine, so you could go on an American passport. You
Yeah.
didn't have to get yeah. Okay.
Well, but when I was at the border, I mean, this guy was looking, and well, I was the only American citizen on the thing. I don't, but they looked at you like, your ties of Russia. Well, I haven't been to Russia in 24 and a half years. Do you really think I'm coming to do something now? So it was nerve wracking. They asked a lot of questions. Mainly why are you coming here? I'm visiting family. Oh, well, you're from Russia, aren't you? And I said, yes, I am. That's my place of birth. Oh, well, do you have a Russian passport? No, I don't. Well, what citizen? I mean, it was to the point where I had to get my nationalization paper out of my suitcase to show this guard that I was
Yeah.
not lying.
Yeah. I'm not surprised, unfortunately, but yeah.
So anything with Russia on it, they question deep.
Yeah. Well, I mean that's understandable given the situation and everything.
Yes.
But okay, wow. So at the end of your trip when you were wrapping things up, what was the departure like? And I asked that because, usually a lot of people sometimes will be happy to leave, they're, or they might break down. I mean, how did you handle it when it was time to go?
Um, Everybody in America knew I wanted to come home. Like the thought of just coming back home and eating like a normal salad and like eating normal food. I see. I was more worried about that. No, I mean I had other business to do here, but and come back and just be home. I wanted to come home, but the thought of leaving her was very hard for me. And this is coming back to I don't know if this is just, Russian people, Ukrainian, maybe European, but they don't really show a lot of emotion. They just don't. The saying Russians don't smile, in that sense. And my mother actually broke down before I did. She had taken me to the bus station and she had started crying when I went on the bus. And that was very emotional because then I started.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I hope I am able to see her again, but I think of what if not? It's just like that situation. But no, she had cried and then I started because she was crying. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
very
Yeah.
little communication of understanding besides with the translator, but you get the gist. You know what's going on.
Yeah.
You know what your
Yeah.
heart wants.
Yeah. Exactly. Wow. So when you got back to the US, I assume you're still in touch with her frequently?
Oh yeah. She talks to me like every day. I told her, I said, Mom, listen, like I'll say in a Russian, like "slushat," which is listen in Russian. You don't have to talk to me every day. We don't have to do this every day. Oh, well, I want to talk to you. It is a little overwhelming because I'm back here and like I'm trying to I don't want to be rude when I say this, but I'm trying to live my life.
Right.
I'm
Yeah.
very blessed
Exactly.
that I have her in my life and everything. I just want her to understand that like we don't have to talk every day, you know. And she doesn't listen. She's a mom. She'll still mess with me whether I answer back or not. But no, we've been talking almost every day. Not on the
Wow.
phone, like not a calling, but messaging just to say, "Hey, you still alive? Okay," that
Yeah.
type of
No,
thing.
yeah. Makes sense. Yeah. Wow, that's definitely a story that, you're never gonna forget. So my next question is, when do you feel, or I guess I could say, when do you hope to make another trip if you want to?
I have a planned trip already in June.
Jeez, okay, never mind. All right. Well, that's awesome. What do you think? Are you going to do anything differently this time, or is it just going to be play it by ear, or are you going to go kind of just do
Well,
similar things, or
we had 26 years without each other, and we have decided that, like every like major holiday, like we had our first Christmas together. We had our meetup, we had that, and I'm going in June because her birthday's June 3rd. So I'm going for her birthday, and I'll go back. Uh, I'm not going to stay 3 months. I like made up my mind. I'm not ever doing that again. Um,
that's a bit yeah, pretty long, but
do-
yep.
I'm staying for 2 weeks. My work is allowing it, so that's great. I'm doing that, and then probably for Christmas and New Year's, I'll go back, and then for my birthday, I would like to have, maybe 2 weeks in that. It is it is overwhelming. And I tell everybody this that I have her now in my life. I mean, do I have to be obligated to see her for all these, or it's weird. It's like you're in a real, when you meet somebody online and you have to like kind of get to know them and you could leave at any time. Well, now it's like, oh wow, I found family, and I don't, it's just an overwhelming experience. You have to be emotionally ready for all this, is what
Yeah.
I have a very close friend who's basically is going through the same thing as me, and her emotional and, you know, her understanding of everything, and, you know, my understanding of everything, like we kind of connected even closer because we found both of our birth mothers, and, she's been a great help to me. I've, helped her in a little bit of the emotional sense and the just, advice. It's just a very overwhelming ordeal, I guess. You have to be emotionally prepared. I didn't think any of this when I was on the lookout or run to find, my mother.
Yeah, it's hard. It definitely creeps up to you, that's for sure. Even if we think we're ready, it turns out I feel it's very hard to be 100% ready for anything when you're doing a search or getting the results or even traveling over like you did and I did the same thing. I mean, it's you want to prepare yourself and then you finally get there and you're just like, you know, it's kind of one of like it's one of those you're on the plane, you're looking out the window and you land and first thing comes to mind is,
Oh shit.
oh shit moment. Yeah, exactly. Yep, I was good. Yep, exactly. So,
Can I ask you a
um
question?
sure. Okay, sure.
I'm struggling with past anger with the situation. Do you have like any anger or anything? Not necessarily. Well,
I hate everyone. Thanks for asking. Next
no,
question.
I mean, just, the anger that I always had with my birth mother on why, I got some of the answers, but I'm really struggling with, now that I know her and what I could have had, it gets to me.
Yeah. I mean, you know, but at first I was very, I wouldn't say angry, but I didn't understand, especially after I made the connection with my birth mother and got to talk to her and ask her questions and everything. And after meeting the family over there, it's hard to really grasp what really happened because different family members told me different kind of stories.
Her friend told
So
me a whole different story than what Olga had said.
exactly. So but yeah, so from my birth mother's, from the answer I got from her was, it was, but the times were difficult financially, not able to have a child. And I mean, I get this, at the time, it was just a few years after the Soviet Union collapsed. So I get that, the country was in disarray. It was, it was bad economically. But then the part that I didn't really understand is literally 1 year after I was born, and she supposedly didn't have, the financial means to have a child. She had my sister and kept my sister.
Oh, here comes the raw stuff.
So it's kind of like, so in the back of my head at first when I heard that, I'm just like, wait, I thought you couldn't afford children, but apparently your economic situation changed in 1 year. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, again, like, you know what? And I don't know. Honestly, my advice, if any, is in time, you tend to, I guess, get over it. I mean, not that I'm telling you to get over it. I'm just saying, like, I eventually just kind of said, you know what? The past was the past. I'll just have to come to terms with the fact that I may never actually 100% know, but just be grateful the fact that they want to at least talk to you and they want to have that relationship and connection now. I think that's something that we need to focus on rather than, what happened 26 years ago, 25 years ago. But I can understand like the anger because at times it is annoying. I mean, there are times even talking to my birth mom where it's just like, why am I talking to this person that, I don't even know if, if what happened is even 100% true. But then you just have these really funny moments where like you get to bond over, I mean, you have that story of you and your birth mom at a restaurant and you got to use Google Translate to chat with their, like you said it yourself. Most people talk to their moms at the dinner table. I talk to Google Translate. I mean, that's a good one. I had a funny encounter like a year ago. I was talking to my birth mom. She kept calling me over and over again during work. And finally, I answered and we were video chatting. We ended up talking for like 3 hours. It was the most draining conversation I think I've ever had with someone. And I kid you not, it was 3 hours straight of this woman complaining that in her apartment building, they banned smoking. And she was so mad about it. She was sitting in her bathroom smoking a cigarette. At the time, she was complaining about this new law. I mean, it's like, what?
Oh,
Like,
you
it's
gotta
just,
love Russian mothers, huh?
oh, it just makes, yeah. And then, And then when they make it to the grandmother stage, all bets are off. They can do whatever they want.
Oh, no. Don't even get started with being a babushka. My mother already got it planned out. By the time I'm 28, she wants at least one grandchild, and then she wants 5 grandchildren after that. She's got it
Oh no,
all planned out.
they don't mess around with that. They told, yeah, my family told me the next time I'm over there, if I'm not married and have kids, that they're gonna force me to marry someone over there. So we'll have to make note of that. But yeah, it's definitely interesting. So my last question for you is, if you were to leave one piece of advice to someone who's maybe going through a similar situation right now, or is just starting out their journey, what piece of advice would that be?
Honestly, I would say to them that if you really want this, don't stop looking for them. I had almost stopped looking for my birth mother and almost gave up. And they say when you're almost to the end, you feel like giving up, but then that's when your reward happens.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's just got to keep on going.
Trot on is what they say in Australia.
All right. Well, that's that's some good advice right there. But it's definitely easier said than done. But I'm sure people who go through that process, they're going to appreciate it.
You have to be emotionally ready for this. Like, you honestly have
You
to
you
prepare.
you can try. You can try. Yeah.
Yeah, I
But
mean,
it's going to overwhelm you for sure.
oh yeah. And you're going to have bumps in the road. You're going to have tears, you're going to have joy, you're going to have laughing. You know, some of the photos that I found on these profiles on my mother, I mean, you can only imagine what the outfits were like in 2006. I mean, in Russia. So, I mean, some of it makes you laugh, and then some of it, you know, makes you really go back and question everything. But then you look at, you know, what you have now. I mean, that's another thing I wanted to bring up. I'm sorry.
It's okay. No work.
I wanted to
No
say
problem.
that, you know, it one little change in her heart, I could have dealt everything in Russia. You know what I mean? Like, I could have been in Russia. So it is interesting, and you know, you can't forget the people that you have here and the people that, you know, were in your life and everything. You know, think of that as well.
Yeah. No, that's good. Yeah, that's a really good point. It's crazy to think about how much has happened in our lives just because of that one decision that one person made 20 plus years ago.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Well, Alexandra Spasiba, thank you so much for joining us again here on
Pajal.
Voice of Adoptees. It was a pleasure speaking with you and getting you back on the show. We're definitely going to have you back on after your trip this summer. So that'll be very exciting. So again, thank you so much for your time and for sharing your wisdom and your funny stories on your travels. It was very good discussion this evening. I really enjoyed it. So thank you so much for your time. And I look forward to hearing from you and following your journey.
Well, thank you.
So
Appreciate that.
you are very welcome. To listen to Alexandra's story, you can go on any of the streaming platforms to listen to her episode. We will also be posting it on our website, voiceofadoptees.com. Go check us out. If you are adopted yourself or know someone, go ahead and bring them on, and we'd love to chat. Thank you for stopping by on another episode of Voice of Adoptees. And remember, who am I?
Thanks for listening to Voice of Adoptees. Please take a moment to like, subscribe, and leave a review. See you next time.